If you listen closely, you can hear the WNBA Rookie of the Year vote getting closer and closer by any means necessary. The Chicago Sky, earlier this afternoon, up 7 points, 12 seconds to play. They're getting the ball. They're feeding the ball to Angel Reese because she's been in foul trouble most of the game. She's only got 9 points. She's got 13 rebounds. Let's play the clip of Angel Reese in this historic moment, keeping her double-double streak alive.
Angel Reese, fans know she's a point away from the double-double. Got fouled down low. These fans are so smart here in Chicago. They all rose to their feet, urging for the entry fee down low to try to extend the double-double streak to 14 in a row. She's at 9 points, 13 rebounds, and here's potentially the clutchest of double-doubles to come if she can knock it down. Oh, there it is.
This is Brett Favre giving Michael Strahan the sack record. This is worse because this is such a gimmick. This is such a gimmick going on here with the double-double streak and Angel Reese. The refs are in on it. The WNBA is in on it. Her teammates are in on it, which I don't blame them. The broadcasters screaming, look how smart Chicago fans are. Of course, the Chicago fans. They'd probably bet on her continuing the double-double streak. And that's why this whole thing needs to be questioned, because gambling is potentially influencing what's going on here with Angel Reese. Everybody's in on it. This double-double thing can easily be controlled by the players on the court. Angel Reese is going to get her 10 rebounds. She's going to get that with effort. But padding her offensive stats, and this is like the second time they've done it in 5 games, that's easy to do. But what I'm going to talk about even more than that today is this Rookie of the Year race. It's starting to tighten up because while the Sky were beating the Dream, one of the worst teams in the WNBA, and moving to, I believe, 9-12, the Indiana Fever were playing one of the worst teams in the WNBA, and they lost at home. We'll get into it. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese. It's getting interesting. Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I'm Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Wednesday. Oh, man, do we have a great show for you today. An awesome show. Jay Skapinac's going to join me, Skap Attack. We're going to talk about what we saw today in the WNBA. T.J. Moe, he's going to come in. We'll talk about Mike Gundy and whether Mike Gundy's a drunken idiot who drives around drunk and tries to defend his best football players. Listen, I've driven drunk 1,000 times. We'll talk about that with T.J. Moe. Anthony Walker, Virgil Walker, Kevin Donahue will be here for some Tennessee Harmony. We'll talk about Joe Biden's speech at a church, and we'll also get a ruling. Can we put the picture up of our producer, David Reed? You've heard me talk about him before. You've seen him on the show before. David Reed is getting married this weekend, and there was a potential... This, to me, we're going to have to go to the experts, Anthony and Virgil, and find out, did David Reed violate premarital fornication laws here? This is last night at Opry Mills as Dave gave his fiancee the ring. This looks really close to me here. This should all be saved for wedding night. But we'll let Anthony and Virgil do a ruling on that. And, of course, we'll end the show, Justice for TT. I can't wait for justice for TT. The Duke Medical School claims timeliness is white supremacy. We'll get into it for Justice with TT. Thank you guys for watching. You need to be a Blaze TV subscriber so you can get that extra fearless content. You guys know extra fearless content. You got to be a Blaze TV subscriber. We do special segments that you can only have access to if you're a Blaze TV subscriber. Go to blazetv.com/fearless. Use the promo code fearless, and you can save $20 on your yearly subscription. Obviously, I want to start today's show by thanking our great friends at Good Ranchers. This episode is brought to you by our good friends at Good Ranchers. Use my promo code fearless at goodranchers.com, and with your subscription, you can claim $100 off plus free Wagyu burgers for a year while supporting veterans during the month of July. It's time to revolt and claim your independence from the grocery store meat aisle. Let me get to it, and then we'll bring Skap into this conversation. Hey, look, the Rookie of the Year contest, in my mind, it's Caitlin Clark. In my mind. But I have to admit, and I have to continue on this argument, this discussion, Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese, no matter how manufactured it is, it's about to be the conversation of the summer. It's too bad this Olympic break that we're about to take, where no one cares about the women's dream team, no one cares about the men's dream team, it is poorly timed for the WNBA. It's poorly timed for me and everybody, because we're about to go off into basketball that doesn't involve Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese. Neither one of them are on the women's Olympic team. I don't care about the women's Olympic team. You don't care about the women's Olympic team. No one cares about LeBron James and these guys on the men's team. No one really cares about the Olympics. People can go on and fake like they care. I don't. We're going to take a 2-week vacation here coming up in the middle of this, because I don't care about the Olympics. What I care about is this feud between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. And yes, I believe much of it is inauthentic. Much of it is just the Marxist, leftist, race idolaters propping up Angel Reese. But they've propped her up to a point that we got to start kind of taking it serious, this conversation. I told you what side I'm on. Caitlin Clark is the Rookie of the Year. But Angel Reese, this double-double streak, Angel Reese and their record, 9-12, not significantly better than the Indiana Fever, but the Fever are 9-14. And yes, the Fever were the worst team in the WNBA last year, and they got more of an uphill climb. But I watched all of Caitlin Clark's game today. They played the Washington Mystics at home, at Indiana, and lost. Figured out a way to be down 20-some-odd points. And yes, Caitlin Clark had a fine statistical game, one of her best, 29 points, 13 assists, 5 rebounds. Great performance, in buckets, shot a better percentage. I think shot 7 of 14 from the field. But when the game mattered, when they were blowing the game in the first 3 quarters and trailing by 21 points, I'm a Caitlin Clark homer. I'm a Caitlin Clark fan. She's too loose with the basketball. 5 turnovers today. I counted 6 turnovers, but they gave her 5 turnovers today. She's leading the league by a nice margin in turnovers. And yes, I'm sorry, turnovers matter. What I will say is a complicating factor in that. I don't know if no WNBA player has ever faced the kind of defensive attention and harassment and commitment to stopping her from getting going on the offensive end that Caitlin Clark has faced. And when you face that much harassment, that much attention, when they're guarding you 75 feet of the court, when, again, their entire focus is not letting you get a clean look and just following you everywhere, and you're the point guard. She's not Reggie Miller. She's not the 2 guard just running off screens and hunting buckets and hunting open looks. She's the point guard. She's responsible for more points than anybody in the WNBA. When you combine her assists and points, she's responsible for more points than anybody in the WNBA. That again, is why I consider her Rookie of the Year without question. Basketball's a game about producing buckets. She produces a lot of buckets with her passing and with her scoring and shooting. But the high turnover numbers drive me crazy because a lot of them just look sloppy. And maybe it's just, I'm telling you, to focus for 40 minutes like she has to, because she virtually never comes off the court. She never gets a mental break on the court. She never gets a moment where there's not someone in her face. I get it. There's a lot of ways to rationalize her turnovers and make excuses for them, but it is frustrating turning the ball over that often and the scoring droughts that she has, because they are pretty effective at denying her open looks and denying her the ball. It just undermines her case in a league and in a media environment where social media narratives and the race idolaters have control of the narrative. And you have to remember who's actually going to vote on Rookie of the Year. Sports writers. Not sports fans, not people with a pair of balls willing to stand up to the race idolaters. It's going to be sports writers. And it will be very interesting how many of them fold and go, oh man, if I don't vote for Angel Reese, I'm racist. And I know what the Vegas odds say, I get it all. But they're turning this into quite a little competition, and Caitlin Clark, with her turnovers, are creating that opportunity to give life into that and for them to beat the New York Liberty and then come out and play like trash today at home against a bad team. Just crack that door a little bit more for Angel Reese to slip in there. And the entire WNBA, is in on the Angel Reese gimmick. I want to replay this clip I showed you at the very beginning of the show because it's important to understand the context. And I'm not sure if I was 1,000% clear, but the Chicago Sky are at home playing a terrible team, the Atlanta Dream. They're up 7 points with 12 seconds to play. That means the shot clock is turned off. They're up 3 possessions. 3 possessions. Yeah, you got to hit 2 threes and another bucket. They're up 3 possessions, 12 seconds to play. In 99.9% of games, you inbound the ball when you're the offensive team. You inbound the ball, you hold the ball, clock runs out, the other team doesn't even defend you. They just let the clock run out and everybody goes into the locker room. Instead, they're inbounding the ball and Angel Reese has her hands up. She's posted up over the middle. They're running a play just to get her a bucket. And when I watch this clip, let's replay the clip. When I watch this clip, the ref seems to be in on it. And because this whistle seems real quick to me. I mean, real quick. The refs at this point, when it's a 3-possession game, 12 seconds to play, they just want to go home too. You don't have to call that foul, nor do you have to commit that foul. This is why I'm saying everybody's in on it. The racial idolatry. Do you see people bending over backwards, not on the Indiana Fever, to help Caitlin Clark? That's the Atlanta Dream, bending over backwards. Hey, this girl needs a bucket. Let me elbow her in the back, give the referee the opportunity to call some silly foul, and everybody can celebrate. The double-double streak continues. Hey, maybe that Atlanta Dream player or someone in their family, and again, who knows? You have a horrible recipe as it relates here to the WNBA in gambling. Let me explain to you why. the players feel like they're underpaid. You know what happens when you feel like, hey, I'm not getting what I deserve? You become entitled. You have an entitled mindset, and you start looking for ways to circumvent the rules to get what you think you're owed. Oh, I'm underpaid. And because of Caitlin Clark, now there's all this intense interest in the WNBA, and gambling in the WNBA has risen. Betting on or providing information to someone in the WNBA in a league where the players feel like they're underpaid, you couldn't create a better recipe for cheating, for fraud, for someone on either team or on both teams, or among that fan base that's all screaming and yelling for, get her the double-double by any means necessary. Everybody, broadcasters, referee, everybody could have money on the game. Never be talked about, never be discussed. But it's reality. I guarantee you the referees in the WNBA feel like they're underpaid. We know every player on the court feels like they're underpaid. It's a recipe for cheating and corruption. And that's why I love the Caitlin Clark narrative. I've discovered some WNBA players that I actually enjoy. I wish that Sophie Cunningham would get more television time. She is probably my new favorite player after Caitlin Clark, but we won't go there today. But I'm just telling you, this league is ripe for corruption. So anyway, I'm going to have a more in-depth conversation with Skap about this, about what we're seeing from Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Try to put this in perspective. Try to compare it to like what we see in terms of NBA players, because I can't give you a reference point about the WNBA. I just don't know enough. But when I want to talk about the defensive attention being directed at Caitlin Clark. So the only thing I can compare it to is Michael Jordan, particularly early in his career. And he had a turnover problem, but not like the one Caitlin Clark has. And probably that's because Jordan wasn't playing the point guard. The ball wasn't in his hands constantly. He wasn't trying to make plays for other people. But Jordan used to average 3.5 turnovers per game. Later in his career, he cut them down to about 2.5 for the last 6-7 seasons he played in the NBA. But he faced a lot of defensive attention like Caitlin Clark, but the ball wasn't in his hands as much as it is in Caitlin Clark's hands. I think they call that usage or whatever. Anyway, Skap will know, and we'll talk about it with Jay Skapinac and Skap Attack. We'll bring him into the conversation. But before we do that, I want to talk to you about our friends at Preborn. How many of you love puppies? They're so sweet and cuddly. What's not to love? But can you imagine pulling puppies out of their mother's womb? Oh, the outrage that would ensue. So why are puppies more protected than babies? Preborn is the nation's leader in protecting the life of the unborn. By introducing babies to their mothers through ultrasound, a baby's chance at life doubles. That's why Preborn and their network of clinics offer free ultrasounds to women with unplanned pregnancies in the highest abortion areas in the country. Through their good work, Preborn rescues 200 babies every day, and they don't stop there. They are a ministry of compassion, loving women and babies, offering assistance for up to 2 years. If you consider yourself pro-life, it's time you help the good work of Preborn. One ultrasound is just $28. $140 helps to rescue 5 babies' lives. Every baby deserves a chance at life. Please donate your best gift today. Just dial pound 250, say the keyword baby. That's pound 250, keyword baby, or visit preborn.com/fearless. That's preborn.com/fearless. Skap Attack, next. Welcome back to Beef. As I walk you through my top 50 media beefs of all time. Yeah, I'm an equal opportunity beefer. It's like, Randy, are you asleep at the wheel? Big lips are in style. I'd love to squash this beef. I mean, I was not real happy at all. I was less than thrilled. I was displeased. And now we have beef. Welcome back. Let's roll down to Florida and bring in our main man, Jay Skapinac. Skap, you watched the Fever blow a game to the Washington Mystics at home today, just like I did. I don't know if you were able to follow. I was watching the game, and I was following along on the Angel Reese stat padding game where the Chicago Sky actually won. Where are you at on this Rookie of the Year race between Clark and Reese?
Well, Jason, I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous that we're even having a discussion, to be honest with you. I think it's unequivocally, it's Caitlin Clark should be, leading this conversation by a landslide at this point in time. I mean, when you look at what Caitlin Clark has meant to her team, she's essentially the co-lead in scoring. I think she's like a half point per game below the team lead there. But then she's also leading her team in assists by a substantial margin. So, I mean, she is by far the most singularly important player on her team in terms of scoring and the involvement of other players. I don't think you can make the argument that Reese is the best player on her team. And yet, look, they have not the same record. They have the same number of wins. The Fever have a couple more losses now at this point. I believe they're 9-14. The Sky, I think, are 9-12. So, I mean, really the only conversation that we could have maybe is if the Sky were lighting the league on fire right now and, had one of the best records in the league potentially. Maybe we can slip Reese's name in here. Otherwise, I mean, Caitlin Clark joined a Fever team, which was the worst team in the WNBA last year. I mean, they had 13 wins. They were 13-27 last year. This is a bad team, and they're, in the mix right now. They're fighting. I think they're probably going to be better than what their record indicates by the end of the year. And Jason, we haven't even got into the mix here of this conversation of the importance that Caitlin Clark carries with her, like what she means to the overall product of the WNBA and just women's basketball in general. We haven't even broached or touched on that subject yet. I think Clark it should be the runaway Rookie of the Year right now.
And so do you think Angel Reese has no case, or is she closing the gap in any way, or should Caitlin Clark just be a unanimous choice as Rookie of the Year?
I would say yes, unanimous case as Rookie of the Year. I think that Reese right now, as we stand here today about the midpoint, has absolutely no case. Again, their statistical output is relatively similar. Clark is averaging 16 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds, something along those lines. And Reese is averaging like 14 points per game, 12 rebounds, and 2 assists. And like I said before, Clark is, without question, to me, the best player on that team. Reese is not that on her own team. And again, let's factor in the team success, same number of wins. So Reese isn't gaining any headway there. And then overall, again, Jason, the overall popularity. I mean, I'm sure you have discussed this ad nauseum, but I mean, when you look at really the impact of Caitlin Clark, it's absolutely astounding that this team, not even looking at viewership, but in just raw attendance numbers for every team in the WNBA right now at about the midpoint, the Fever are averaging about 17,000 people per game in attendance. That's essentially a sellout every game. Number 2 on that list is the New York Liberty with just about 12,000, so substantially less than Clark. And then the Sky, which is Reese's team, is averaging about 8,000 people in attendance. And when you look at the viewership, just to touch on this real briefly, because these numbers are absolutely mind-boggling to me. From 2009 to this season, to the beginning of this season, the WNBA did not have a single game get 1 million viewers. Not once in 15 years. Now this season, about halfway through, they have 12 games over 1 million. And the top 10 most viewed WNBA games this season, We've got Clark involved in 9 of them, Jason. 9 times is Caitlin Clark. I mean, she is just so utterly and unbelievably important to the WNBA and its product. You would need to show me a player with a substantial case to be above her if we're going to give someone other than her the WNBA Rookie of the Year, and that just doesn't exist at this point in time.
Well, you're leaving out racism. That's why so many people are going to the game. You're leaving that out. So once you factor in, I think there's 2 factors you're overlooking. Racism and how that leads people to buy Fever tickets and not buy Chicago Sky tickets. And then on a more serious note, people are going to use, and I think it's a fair criticism, the high 5.5 turnovers a game. Those possessions are why you fall down 20 some odd points and then can't complete the comeback. They made a great comeback and had a chance at the end, loose with the basketball. Just the turnovers haunt you. 5.5 turnovers a game. I tried to compare that, because again, I don't know or care enough about WNBA history, and it's irrelevant to me anyway. I've never seen a player get the kind of defensive attention Caitlin Clark gets, perhaps other than Michael Jordan. And so when I went and looked at Jordan's early turnover statistics, he had a high of about 3.5 per game one season. He stayed in the 3 range early in his career, and then he cut it down to a very acceptable 2.5 turnovers a game. Can that all just be chalked up to he wasn't the point guard and the ball wasn't in his hands as much? He wasn't the primary, or maybe he was the primary playmaker, but it wasn't his job to be the primary playmaker for the Bulls. But what do you make of her high turnover number?
Well, yeah, Jason, to your point, the game today was an absolutely atrocious loss for them. They were down by, as you referenced, 21 points at one point in the fourth quarter of that game. And Washington, coming into the day, was tied for the worst record in the WNBA. So it's just a game you have to get if you're the Fever. But again, they shot 58% in the first quarter, but trailed by 9 at the end of the first because they had those 8 turnovers. And that was on the way to 21 turnovers for the game, and Clark, added another 5 turnovers today. That's a league leading total to start the day. Just to put this in perspective, what we're talking about here. She had 122 turnovers to begin the day, and number 2 in that metric had only 80. So she's not only leading the WNBA in turnovers, it's by an overwhelming amount. But, to your point, the usage rate that she has right now is just unbelievable. When she is essentially, their lead scorer and lead assist player, she's got the ball in her hands more, substantially more than anybody else. Then we have to factor in she's a young player. She's a rookie. To your point about Jordan in his early years, 4 out of his first 5 years, he was top 10 league-wide in turnovers, and he was 5th in the NBA in turnovers in his rookie season. So some of this could just be learning curve. The game sped up somewhat onto this level based on what she was used to seeing at the collegiate level. And she's being asked to do a lot as a rookie. So, I think when you combine all of those things, that kind of produces this eye-popping turnover margin. But there is, I'd say, some hope that she could get that under control moving on, as you pointed out, Jordan. But even when you look at throughout NBA history, there's been a number of eventual MVPs that led the NBA in turnovers. Shaquille O'Neal led the NBA in turnovers. Moses Malone, Karl Malone, Magic Johnson. Irv led the NBA in turnovers at one point in his career, and all of those guys went on to have masterful NBA careers. So, and even Steve Nash led the league in turnovers a couple times. So, and this year, just to bring it all into perspective, Luka Doncic led the NBA in turnovers this season, and he finished 3rd this year in MVP and had a masterful run into the NBA Finals. But the usage again, he led the league in scoring and was 3rd in assists. Just the amount of time that he had the ball in his hands, the turnovers are going to tend to be a little bit higher.
Man, I'm looking here at Magic Johnson, but that 4.6 turnovers per game in 83-84. One of his MVP seasons, he averaged 4 turnovers. Ball in his hands a lot. The name you threw out there that kind of really surprised me, though, Steve Nash leading the league in turnovers. But Steve Nash never averaged more than 3.8 turnovers per game in a season. But I just think what is unique watching Caitlin Clark is just like, wow, Skap, the level of defensive attention. She never gets a moment where there's not another defender breathing in her face, and that's about for 75 feet of the court. They pick her up, and then they just never let her go. No one's getting defended like her, and that's where I will excuse some of the turnovers, because anybody facing that type of pressure, constant pressure, is probably going to turn the ball over. But my other knock is, look, they brought her, she's the leading scorer in the nation, and she's a great scorer. And I said last year when she was in college or last season, I was like, hey, she's a great scorer, but she's also just equally as much as a playmaker. So her and these assists in the WNBA don't surprise me. What does surprise me, though, is she's only shooting 33% from three-point range. That's significantly below expectations. I probably thought she'd shoot 38, 39% from three, but maybe I should chalk this up to just the level of defensive attention she's getting in the WNBA.
Yeah, I mean, not just that, but our eyes are conditioned to watching, the NBA product and, maybe even just seeing, NBA stat lines and so forth. I mean, when you look at Caitlin Clark's game today, she had 29 points and 13 assists. And her team only scored 84 points. So, she accounted for, roughly 65% of her team's total offense today. And, when you look at, the league leader in the WNBA right now is at 27 points per game. But then number 2, I think, dips all the way just to 20 points per game. So, it's more, it is a kind of a lower scoring product. They obviously play less time. And to your point with the attention on Clark, I feel like she's kind of the media's anointed, golden girl, so to speak. And I think every team is kind of taking that personally, and they don't want to let her get off. So not only is she the focal point because she's the best player, but also, the other teams don't want to be like humiliated by her or have her, stroking threes all over them. So I believe that kind of accounts for some of the increased attention and pressure that she's facing right now.
Have you seen the clip of Angel Reese's, the foul she got with 6 seconds to keep her double streak alive? Have you seen that yet?
I did get a look at it. I think it's important we point out they were up 7 points, I believe, at the time.
Yeah. 7 points with 12 seconds to play. Let's remove Caitlin Clark from the conversation. What's your take just on Angel Reese as a player? I think she has great energy. Dennis Rodman, who scores only because she's in the WNBA. That skill set that she has, that little left-handed, I guess you'd call it a shot, is she's just not very efficient or very skilled. But remove Caitlin Clark from the conversation? Are you impressed with Angel Reese?
Not really. I mean, I thought coming out of college, she basically just looked like a player that was big and around the basket a lot. So, I mean, she opportunistically, with all of the rebounds that she's going to get just from her positioning and size, she gets a lot of scores and putbacks based, just off of that being around the basket. So, I think overall her game is limited. She doesn't have, a very diverse skill set as a basketball player, which is why I think she just never was. There's other things that, combine into this, but she just is not anywhere remotely close to as marketable as a player like Caitlin Clark, just because of the wide variety of skill set that Clark has with the ball handling, the passing, the shooting. And, Reese she's essentially just a big that floats around underneath the basket, which is why it's kind of humorous to me, the amount of attention that her double-double streak garners, from a national standpoint. I mean, so what? Like, she's a big that's floating around the basket. You should be averaging near 10 rebounds a game in my estimation.
So to make the NBA analogy, I saw somewhere online that Arvydas Sabonis had a double-double in 77 of 82 games one season. And again, I know we're comparing them to men, and so let's be fair here, though. The NBA is a 48-minute game. The WNBA is a 40-minute game. It would be more difficult to get a double-double in the WNBA, given the time. There's less time. Now, there's probably more missed shots, and there's more missed shots around the rim, so maybe more opportunities to get rebounds, but you have 8 less minutes to score points. Are we being fair by diminishing this double-double streak? And I'm asking mostly for myself because I've been diminishing it, but when I give it more thought, 8 less minutes. Now, again, they're doing screwy stuff and trying to help Angel Reese out. But, what do you think about that nuance? Just 8 less minutes, it is kind of impressive. You can get these double-doubles. If guys in the NBA had 8 less minutes, there'd be probably a lot less double-doubles.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that the eight fewer minutes obviously is going to depreciate some of the bulk totals that, again, we're used to seeing, just our trained eyes are used to seeing from watching NBA and seeing NBA stat lines. But, I mean, as you referenced, look, the shot making is at a lower level in my estimation in the WNBA. There's a lot more misses floating around the rim to be had on those rebound totals. I mean, you pointed it out yourself, Caitlin Clark, the 33 points from the 3-point line, but she's only shooting, she's sub 40% from the field. I think she's shooting 39% overall from the field right now. And Angel Reese herself, who again is consistently floating around the basket, and most of her shots are coming from, a couple feet in, she's only shooting 41% for the season. So the amount of misses and missed shots and the opportunities to get rebounds seems a bit more robust in the WNBA to me.
Skap, thank you for joining me. Great job as always. This Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese debate, I think, is going to be it may end up being more heated and more passionate than Michael Jordan versus LeBron James in the GOAT conversation. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I do think we're headed that direction. I'm shocked how much I like talking about it, and I know other people do as well. And so we'll continue the conversation next time. Thank you, Skap. Guys, I want to talk to you about balance of nature, making sure you have the fruits and vegetables in your diet. That's important for your overall health. The average person doesn't even eat half of the recommended servings in a day. It's a huge gap. Inflation makes it tough. The cost of fruits and vegetables is really high. That's why you should consider Balance of Nature products for an on-the-go solution. Their prices haven't changed in 10 years. Their proprietary blend of 31 fruits and vegetables come in easy-to-swallow capsules and will give your body so much of the nourishment it needs. Imagine trying to eat 31 different kinds of produce in a single day. That's what you're getting from Balance of Nature fruits and veggies. When you go to balanceofnature.com, you'll get 35% off plus a free fiber and spice supplement with your first order as a preferred customer by using my discount code FEARLESS. You'll save a ton of money while getting the vegetables you need. Make a splash this summer with Balance of Nature supplements. Go to balanceofnature.com, sign up as a new preferred customer, use the promo code FEARLESS, 35% off for your first order, plus a free fiber and spice supplement. Hurry, this offer is only available while supplies last. T.J. Moe, just around the corner. We're going to talk about Mike Gundy. Mike Gundy. I'm a man. I'm 40. I drink a lot. Next. Steve, I just want to say on behalf of Shakur Stevenson and his family, stop Asian hate.
It has come to my attention that there is a Chinese among us. Rest assured, he will be found.
That's what I think this is all about. So let's stop Asian hate.
We're on your side. I hate Godzilla. I hate him too. I hate him. He destroys cities.
But can't we all just get along?
Here's the thing. The last family that came after me was Ryan Garcia. Well, how'd that work out? Who's the piece of now?
How you like me now?
All right, welcome back. T.J. Moe joining us to talk about Mike Gundy, the head football coach at Oklahoma State. One of his top players, Ollie Gordon, running back, one of the best players in the country, got a DUI, and at Big 12 Media Day, Mike seems to get a little defensive about it and has an interesting reply, but says something about, man, I've done that 1,000 times. Let's play SOT number 1, and let's hear from Mike Gundy, and then we'll hear from T.J. Moe.
And when I looked at it, I thought, okay, I'm going to be real honest with myself first, and then make the best decision for what I think is good for Ollie, our university, and our team. And then I start thinking about being a parent. I have a 28, I have a 23, and a 19. And first I thought, okay, so I looked it up on my phone. What would be the legal limit? Like in Oklahoma is 0.08, and Ollie was 0.1. So I looked it up, and it was based on body weight. Not to get into the legal side of it, but I thought really 2 or 3 beers or 4. I'm not justifying what Ollie did. I'm telling you what decision I made. Well, I thought I've probably done that 1,000 times in my life. And I, it's just fine. So I got lucky. People get lucky. Ollie made a decision that he wished he could have done better. But when I talked to Ollie, I told him, I said, you're lucky you got out light. But I said, see, there's 2 things here, Ollie. You need to answer for this, and guess who else has to answer for it? Me. And I'm going to answer for it. And here's what I'm going to tell them. I'm bringing you out here because you're the person that was in that situation. They need to talk to you. And the one thing that I would say to people is just be cautious about judging unless you've never put yourself in that situation.
Exactly right.
And I think that if you look at it that way and understand, hey, Ollie, you're lucky. You could have done something that affects you and somebody else and their family.
So I think that's a horrible explanation, TJ. I think Mike Gundy knows it's a horrible explanation. I want to read you the tweet he put out late yesterday after this kind of blew up. My intended point today at Big 12 Media Days was that we are all guilty of making bad decisions. It was not a reference to something specific. That's Mike Van Gundy. Wow.
Mike Gundy. Yes.
Mike Gundy. Why do I keep saying Van Gundy? Mike Gundy. TJ, I find his original answer mind-blowing. I think this deflection over Twitter, he's basically saying, hey, man, I drink and drive all the time, is what his explanation was. So why would you expect me to suspend Ollie when I do the exact same thing? Which I'll give him some credit. That's very transparent. Like, hey, I do the exact same thing. That could have been me. So I'm not getting suspended, so neither should he. But there's what the real explanation is. Hey, you know how much money we're paying this guy in NIL? I can't sit this guy out of a game when we're paying him this much money. And this is what we talk about, how the unintended consequences of bad decisions, name, image, and likeness, and this whole, hey, let's just pay the players. Let's just play the players. There are repercussions to that. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, so I think you're exactly right. They're paying him a ton of money, and they would have to turn around to their donors and their NIL base and say, I'm really sorry. The number one running back in America who was an All-American last year, ran for 1,700 yards, and is EA Sports number 3 overall player. He's going into his junior year, which is a time where running backs are usually their best. And we're going to sit him down against, by the way, South Dakota State, who's on a 29-game winning streak. The last time they lost a game was against Iowa in 2022. And they don't want to put that on their resume. This is that right now I think Oklahoma State's projected to be 3rd in the new Big 12, right there with Utah and Kansas State. And, Mike Gundy has, in my view, probably the most job security in all of college football. And so he actually is going to get away with saying virtually anything. This is alma mater. He played quarterback there in the 80s. He has the most relevant team, I think, in the Big 12. But there's nobody left. The 2 blue bloods in the conference just left. And so this, in my view, really is his version of the speech that you made fun of him for. I'm a man, I'm 40. He's just deflected all of the attention off of Ollie, and we're only talking about Mike Gundy now. And so this was the guy, Bobby Reed at the time, his quarterback. They did a big write-up, and everybody stopped talking about Bobby Reed's performance. They were talking about Mike Gundy being 40 years old and being a man. And now all we're talking about is Mike Gundy today. And, hey, it's really no big deal that Ollie had a .1 because Mike Gundy's done this 1,000 times. Let's talk about that.
That's actually a tiny bit honorable if he's deflecting attention away from his player and putting all the heat on himself. But as you say, he's bulletproof at Oklahoma State, bulletproof in the Big 12. There's nothing you can do about it. And clearly, Ollie has made himself bulletproof because he's such a great player and they're paying him so much money that now there's less discipline that can be directed towards the players because of name, image, and likeness and all the money they're getting paid. And I know everybody just thinks, man, just give kids money. That'll make the world better. And anybody that's against giving kids money, just they're racist or they're I don't know, they're patriarchal or they're exploitive and they just want the kids to be slaves. Nah, I want the kids to be held accountable and developed and discipled into responsible human beings. And we're doing a lot less of that now. And all we're doing is justifying the money we're paying them and pampering kids. There's no consequences. Again, there will TJ, we may live in a time, if we keep going this direction, where a coach will stand up and say, well, look, he got drunk and he took advantage of the girl. I've done that 1,000 times, gotten a girl drunk and taken advantage of her. You expect me to suspend this guy over some silly rape allegations that can't be proven? But for the grace of God, there go I. And we're like, yeah. I mean, that's the direction we're headed.
Yeah, and I actually think, you said it's potentially honorable. I think he tried to be more honest, but knows he can't go all the way there. There's a different interview than the one that we played where he was saying, look, I've told the guy, you guys are making real money now. And, he more or less was trying to say, and these weren't his words, but he was hinting at this. We're paying these guys too much money. You've stripped me of any ability to be the disciplinarian coach that I would like to be. And so he tried to telegraph that without coming out and actually saying, he said, we're going to punish him by giving him 50 carries and whatever. Yes, he doesn't want to lose. But what he's really saying is, look, in the NFL, they're probably not suspending guys for DWIs. And when we've gotten to the point where these guys can transfer anytime they want to, and they're making so much money that if I become any type of disciplinarian, he'll leave and go to another coach that won't do that. And all my donors are going to get upset. So you've stripped me of any ability. So here, let's talk about something stupid that I said instead of this, because I don't really have this power anyway.
Yeah. You just summed it up. Stuart Mandel says he had an opportunity to get some clarification from Mike Gundy on his tweet. He tweeted out, got a chance to follow up with Gundy about this just for a few seconds. He said he was referring to all the times people make bad decisions, not specifically drunk driving. We are where we are. Degeneracy, and maybe Ollie will get hooked up the way Hawk Tua girl got hooked up he's done something stupid and inappropriate, and we'll celebrate it. And he'll be a sensation. He'll be offered speaking engagements and podcasts and all of that, and some agency will reach out to him. Anyway, thank you, TJ. Great job. We here at Blaze Media are very proud to announce our newest addition and expansion into primetime news, Blaze News Tonight. It's the daily news show the internet needs, giving you provocative opinions, expert analysis, and breaking stories you won't see anywhere else. Blaze News Tonight will bring you the experts on every issue to ensure you are fully informed. Join us as we dive in the day's most pressing issues with opinions analysis that challenge the mainstream narratives, hosted by Jill Savage and featuring Blaze News Editor-in-Chief Matt Peterson and Blaze News Senior Politics Editor and DC Correspondent Chris Bedford, and many more of your favorite Blaze Media hosts, including yours truly. Make sure to subscribe to Blaze News Tonight for your go-to source for unfiltered, hard-hitting commentary that keeps you informed and engaged. Blaze News Tonight launches on July 11th. Go to Blaze News Tonight YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, and turn on notifications to never miss an episode. Tennessee Harmony with Virgil, Kevin, and Anthony next.
What was that?
I'm sorry. I'm listening. That's Howard Dean. I'm listening to Howard Dean.
And Oklahoma and Arizona and North Dakota and New Mexico. And we're going to California.
This guy sucks.
And Texas and New York. And we go to South Dakota and Oregon and Washington and Michigan.
Now let's talk about the mail. Can we talk about the mail, please, Mac? I'm dying to talk about the mail with you all day, okay?
And then we're going to Washington, D.C. to take back the White House. Ah!
Oh, no.
Peter, what are you doing? Crack?
If you had told us 1 year ago that we were going to come in third in Iowa, we would have given anything for that.
All right, welcome back. Time for some Tennessee Harmony. Virgil Walker, Anthony Walker, Kevin Donahue here with us. Anthony, do us a favor, pray us in.
Father God, we're thankful for today. We're thankful for the opportunity to live according to your word, to represent Christ in all that we say and do. Help us to be an encouragement to someone to know Jesus. It's in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Guys, I want to start out on a bit more of a lighter note. We're going to talk about Joe Biden and speaking at a church and whether that's appropriate or not. But I actually want to start with a ruling from Anthony and Virgil. Kevin, you can sit this one out. On something personal here that we need a ruling on. David Reed, our producer, is getting married this weekend in San Diego. He sent a video yesterday of he was out at a concert with his fiance, and he gave her the ring. And I'm not sure if what I witnessed in the video is this fornication? Is this allowed before marriage? If we could play the video of Dave giving his fiance the ring, and I'm just wondering if this kiss is this appropriate? And so I wanted to go to some experts here. Anthony, I'll let you fire first. I mean, isn't that wedding night activity? I mean, this seems to be crossing the lines here. Anthony?
I mean, anything more than a peck on the cheek. I mean, we're getting a little far.
That's biblical bully. I know you have some thoughts on this. Virgil, give us the official ruling on this.
Bro, he way more than crossed the line, man. He way more than crossed the line. Come on, man. You gotta say something for the wedding night, man. Come on now.
Dave has been on a 3-month wedding night fast. I don't know if you guys have known that he hasn't eaten for 3 months in preparation for the wedding night. He's dropped a bunch of weight.
That's the slimming and trimming.
Yeah. So anyway, we have the official ruling. I was putting that in a text thread, that type of activity. I'm surprised my covenant eyes didn't beat. Anyway, on a more serious note, guys, Joe Biden, I want to play the clip of Joe Biden at a church, I believe, in Philadelphia. Let's play the clip.
To get us through the pandemic that claimed 1 million loved ones and left 8 million people with an empty chair at dinner or breakfast because of someone they lost. To ensure that the economy has the lowest black unemployment and more black small businesses in decades. To rebuild and ensure black America has a peace of mind that comes with health care for everybody. To ensure you can follow your dreams without the burden of student debt. To make housing affordable. Help more black families build wealth and pass it on to future generations. To keep our communities safe by getting weapons of war off our streets. To give hate no safe harbor. While there are those who want to erase history, Kamala and I want to make it. Because black history is American history.
All right. Should a president be giving a political speech inside of a church? Inbounds, out of bounds, and this is more for the church. President can do whatever he wants, but we always love to talk about the separation of church and state. Anyway, Anthony, you have a church.
Paul, when he spoke to the church at Corinth, he says in 1 Corinthians chapter 2, he says, I determined to know nothing except Christ and him crucified. And so as it relates to what is being spoken in the pulpit, everything needs to relate to Christ and him crucified. If we're talking about housing, we need to be talking about the Lord's house. If we're talking about debt, we need to talk about our sin debt and how Christ paid it all. If we're talking about hate, we need to talk about how the Lord hates sin. All of this needs to relate to Christ. One of the reasons why, we don't have politicians to come to our church to present in this way, because obviously the optics throw it. But two, I don't want you to be confused about what the pulpit is all about. It's not about me. It's not about psychology, philosophy. It's about theology. And so that's it, full stop. If Biden wants to speak in a political arena, or any president wants to speak in a political arena, they have the arena of the citizenry, the entire citizenry, the whole U.S. But in terms of the pulpit, this is about Christ and him crucified and heralding or proclaiming the message of salvation to all the hearers.
I want to clarify, and then Virgil, you hop in. So let's say President Biden or any politician wanted to go and speak about their faith walk or the impact they're giving themselves to Christ, what it's had on them, and wanted to share from that perspective. That more appropriate or even welcome?
You're still walking a line. I know some politicians who are Christians, obviously. I get that. But in that arena, in that space, this is what we normally do. So, Biden, are you speaking at Catholic Mass? Are you speaking at all? Is this what you typically do? Or is this something that you do around a political season? And again, even with the sharing of testimony, et cetera, is this something that you typically do, or is this around campaign season? If this is hey, this is what I do in operating in my faith, then we don't have the press, we don't have the camera. This is just what you normally do. But we obviously see this is a political ploy, And it's there. It is so confusing. Could you imagine the person who is struggling with their sin, struggling with enduring through life's own hardships, and you come to worship to hear a word from the Lord, and here is a politician. And regardless of your political persuasion, politics themselves is what is causing some of the issues. So now you walk right into your problem in a place where you came to find the solution. So the optics, I would advise not to do it all.
Virgil?
Unfortunately, many in black circles have exchanged God for government. And so as they've replaced God with government, it's not surprising to see politicians taking a primary role in the pulpit. There's a reason that Sunday is called the Lord's Day. It's because we focus that entire day on the Lord, on reforming what has been deformed in us all during the week. We take one day, the first day of the week, to reform our minds, to ensure that we are conforming into the image of Christ. Politics has no place in the pulpit, especially on the Lord's Day. It is the Lord's Day. The only kingdom that should be spoken of is the kingdom of Christ and Him crucified. That's the only kingdom that should be spoken of on that day. Had Biden brought a message from the Scripture with a focus on Christ and His kingdom, that may have been appropriate. But the idea that a politician is going to step in the pulpit and use it as his own campaign platform and to have people cheering behind it is indicative of the fact that we've abandoned God and have adopted government as God in far too many black communities. They do this in the same way with rap artists. So Democratic politicians will either show up at a church and do what Biden did, or hire or bring in a bunch of rap artists to an event so that they can get the message out to the black community. And this is just indicative of that kind of an approach.
I don't think this is totally, I do think it's the problem's most acute in the black church, but I do think politicians speak at white churches as well. I believe, and I don't know, should we consider Ben Carson a politician? He operates in that political sphere. I know that he spoke at Alan Jackson's church 2-3 weeks ago in Murfreesboro. And, you know, it's a mixed race church, but it's predominantly white. I think of Mark Robinson, Republican, lieutenant governor out of North Carolina. And I'm just wondering if we would all, because he would be singing a message that I more agree with. And so would I be less bothered by it if it were Mark Robinson? Virgil, chime in, and Kevin, I want you to chime in.
I would not be less bothered by it if it was a political stump speech. I would still be bothered by it if what he's bringing on the Lord's Day isn't book, chapter, verse, scripture, message that points people to Christ. It would be problematic on the Lord's Day. That is not the day for you to pontificate about what kind of policy prescriptions you're about to give to the country. This is the day to honor the Lord. That's it, point blank, period.
Yeah, I guess the one thing I really don't like about it is people make a big deal about a politician coming to a church, and somehow, to me, it kind of diminishes the minister. Like, this politician's a bigger deal than the actual minister, and it's just not true. And anyway, Kevin, Catholic Church, Biden's a Catholic.
Yeah, I guess.
Claims of Catholic. Do they bring politics or politicians?
No, in fact, if that were to happen, coming from a parishioner standpoint, I would leave. And I've walked out of churches before when I hear a message that's not congruent, or if it's political, or if they're trying to be newsworthy or whatever it is. I don't care about that. I want the Word of God. and I want to be moved, and I want to worship. I want it to be silent, like both of these guys said. You want to walk into a place and be moved, and at least have a chance to meditate. This to me looked like a political stunt, like a last-ditch effort. It's like, Biden's handler, because clearly this isn't Biden's choice to be there. They put him up here and say, let's put him in this church, a minority church, and let's see what kind of press we get, what kind of traction we get, to see if this boosts our number, to see if this guy is still a legitimate candidate. So it just seemed desperate to me. And it was, he was just the same bumbling guy, same empty suit he's been the whole entire time. So to put a guy like that in front of your congregation, it was a little embarrassing. I think that's the word I'd choose.
So, and I know you're not a Catholic apologist, but are there Catholic churches where he would be welcome and he would do politicians speak at Catholic churches?
I've never seen it. I mean, but maybe it's happened, maybe it hasn't. I mean, the fact is, everyone's welcome to any Catholic church at any point, right? Well, that's the whole point, is like, we want everyone to come. Right, that's the point of Christianity, is to invite and welcome people, open arms, into the church to discover Christ for themselves. Have I seen a speech before? I've never had at a Catholic Mass. The purpose of the Mass is the Holy Eucharist. The whole point of the Mass is there's a reading from the Old Testament, a reading from the New Testament, a reading from the Gospel, and that is all a setup to get to the Holy Eucharist, the ceremony that Jesus gave us at the Last Supper, of the body and blood of Jesus Christ. That's the point of the Mass, nothing else. You'll go to Mass, sometimes there's not even a sermon, and the priest is usually limited to a 10-minute homily, that's it. But the whole purpose of the Mass is to quiet the soul, to meditate, and to receive the Holy Eucharist.
You just helped me, because I used to understand, why is the Catholic Church so much quieter than the churches I'm used to? And now I understand it. Anthony, final thought here, because I don't want to beat up this topic too much. Is this, in your view, commonplace to the black church, and being kind of used as a prop for politicians? Because obviously I'm older than you substantially, but the tradition used to be they would show a president visiting a church. The news media would say, "Oh, this president visited the church." Yep. It was, and I can remember that as a kid. So Reagan went to this church, or Jimmy Carter went to that church, and they visited.
Right.
Now it's about them speaking at a church. It used to be like the politician would go there to humble himself. That even I must submit to God and come under the direction of this minister in this church. And they've changed that, it seems like.
Right, and it's magnified. Again, going back to, how I was brought up and how I was trained in ministry. Even when, prominent people, not necessarily a politician, but prominent people, maybe an athlete or a celebrity or whatnot, visits, I'm going to speak to them just like I speak to anybody else. I rarely ever acknowledge them, even from the stage, because my understanding is that we're all here to worship Christ, them too. So I'm not trying to take away any attention from Christ to, oh, hey, we have such and such celebrity here in the audience. Like, they're there to worship. And I don't do that for anybody else. But again, the common, residual response that we're making here is that all of it points to Christ. And when we start to take away from that for whatever purpose, this political stump speech, this, as you said, and I remember growing up and seeing that this person visited, and I'm thinking, what's the deal? But it's a press release. It is, hey, they visited, and that's supposed to mean something. Oh, they went to such and such church. Well, I wonder why. Oh, that must mean that they are relating to us as black people. He went to a black church. He visited a black church. He spoke at a black church. So obviously he must have black ideals in mind. No, this is all political. And we're using Christ to advance a political narrative, even in presence and in speech.
Virgil, I'm going to give you the final thought because I want you to follow in. You're slightly closer to my age. But I used to interpret that a little differently than Anthony as a kid.
Gotcha.
Literally, when people would go visit a church, I took it as a sign of like, oh, even that person bows to God and pays that respect. I took it as a positive, probably being naive as a kid and not realizing that there were these political messages they were trying to get across. Virgil, what do you remember about that era or that time?
Yeah, it was the same. I mean, you'd see at the course of of an election cycle, all of these politicians who you'd never seen before showing up at particular churches and the like, and it was all of that was theater. It was theater. It was no more than what we're seeing now. We've just elevated it from being in the pews to being in the pulpit. And all of it was political theater. If a president has a serious, sincere faith, they will be found in their local church, submitting themselves to Scripture, to the Word of God, to the preached Word of God, and doing so consistently. And wherever they're visiting, they would want to come in and go out without much notice. That would be when I would respect or would have respect for what they were doing. This is obvious. I think Anthony said it. This is a political ploy. It's targeted as the Biden administration is witnessing blacks who are now beginning to leave the plantation, if you will, of the Democratic Party and are beginning to vote more conservatively as poll numbers are reflecting. And so this is a last ditch effort to drum up some support. His whole talk was all about blackity black, black, and what he was going to do for black people. And I mean, it was patronizing. It was problematic. We've got to stop this. We absolutely have to reject this when we see it. Pastors have got to stop doing it. We need to get back to normal, a normal way of worshiping God, honoring Him on the Lord's Day.
You led me to my final point, and we'll be done. You just, from a pulpit, Biden's message could not be played in every zip code, therefore it's in error.
Absolutely.
So anyway, thank you guys. We're not ending the show. Stick around. I've got Justice for TT next. And if anybody's followed me over social media, I keep saying, and maybe I've said previously on this show, this song, They Not Like Us, that's become the anthem of the summer.
Hundreds of fans gathered to watch him film the music video for his hit Not Like Us.
This is not your stereotypical diss song.
There ain't no such thing as halfway cross.
To me, it's much worse than Hit 'Em Up. It's much worse than No Vaseline. It's much worse than Ether.
But at least now it can't get much worse.
But it did get worse.
And it's about the most vile and vicious attack that anyone could record about another person.
Where did you get those clothes? At the toilet store?
The song, for those of you that don't know, it calls Drake a pedophile.
Anita Maxwell.
A minor. Do it. Justice for TT. Today's issue, person we're seeking justice for, being on time and individualism. They're all a part of white supremacy, according to the Duke Medical School. We must seek justice and reparations for all the time Black people have been penalized for being late. That's all part of white supremacy. Let's read from the Fox News story. Duke Medical School claims it is white supremacy culture to expect people of color to be on time in a strategic plan for creating an anti-racist workforce. The medical school said its goal is to catalyze anti-racist practice through education in a 2021 plan titled Dismantling Racism and Advancing Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion in the School of Medicine. The guide, praised by the school's dean, called out what it deemed white supremacy culture, with its purported nitpicking of being on time, dress code, speech, and work style, it also contains a series of negative terminology vis-a-vis white culture. White culture is the ideology that white people and the ideas, thoughts, beliefs, and actions of white people are superior to people of color and their ideas, thoughts, beliefs, and actions, the document stated. This is sickening. This is sickening. This is racist. The Duke Medical School has come out with a statement saying that being on time is anti-black. That black people don't don't operate in a timely fashion. When you start, remember when we used to call that a trope? What do you mean? That's a trope. Black people show up on time, they're responsible. Now it's a fact, and a medical school says, you know what? No one should care about time. And so if you call a banker or you call a doctor, if you call the police, if you do it, and you should lower your expectations and not expect them to be on time, to arrive in a timely fashion. No one has to live up to their word. That's white culture if you expect someone to live up to their word, to be responsible. This is incredible. And the fact that it's being allowed, the fact that all of these Ivy League elites, the talented 10th, all these special Negroes that they put on TV, they should be complaining about this. They're codifying black people's irresponsible behavior. This is what they're doing. It's not what I'm doing. Let's make it custom that, hey, just don't expect black people to show up on time. Black people don't want to be individuals. They want everything in a group. Bottom line, they're saying black people are Marxists. Black people believe it takes a village. No, it takes a family. And it takes mama and daddy. And it takes responsible individuals to build a functioning society. But you now have Duke Medical School. This is a respected university that is basically telling its professors and establishing a culture there at Duke, hey, any black people we allow in here, we've lowered all expectations for them. They can show up to class when they want. They don't have to respect any American ideals. This is, when I think about the silly things we get upset about. Earlier this week we had a justice for TT, cotton plants at a hotel. And oh my God, that was so traumatic. And now I'm going to give an interview about it. But a major university saying, hey, don't expect black people to show up on time. It's timeliness, and perhaps it's my football background, or perhaps I'm just stuck in my ways, but timeliness is one of my major pet issues. When someone shows up late to me, it's like, oh, they don't respect me. They don't respect my time. I'm not important enough for them to show up on time. My time isn't valuable. I'm going to share a story that's probably not a good look for me. But it's just, I'm just telling you, there's a quirk in my personality. I don't want to go all off in a deep, but yeah. The woman from Philadelphia that I liked, and this years ago, and I tried to warn her about me and timeliness and all that, because I'm a weird dude. But timeliness is just, it's a pet issue of mine. And I know women run late, particularly if they're going out on a date and they want to get dressed up and blah, blah. But it's just an issue for me. I'm weird. And so we were going to an event, some sort of show in Las Vegas. And I'm standing downstairs waiting for her to finish getting dressed. I start, hey, look, we were leaving at such and such time, blah, blah, blah. And at some point I finally say, hey, look, if you ain't here in 5 minutes, I'm bouncing. And I bounced. And she started chanting. It went across my clock or my watch like, oh, you missed the deadline. And she steps out of the elevator as I'm walking away and runs after me, blah, blah, blah. I never turn around. I just keep walking because I was staying at a different hotel. I just keep walking out to my car and leave. I'm a weirdo. I totally acknowledge that. But timeliness is just like, it's my pet issue. I am a nut about it. I hold myself to the same standard. Look, if I'm going to be late, because sometimes things outside your control do happen. I'm trying to give people early updates and inform them and all of that. It's just, and now to read. Maybe I've been made so white that that's why I care about being on time, but I just try to respect other people's time and try to be respectful of that. That's where it really comes from. I'm trying to give other people the respect that, hey, you can trust my word. I'm going to do what I say that I'm going to do, and I'm going to be there in a timely fashion, and I want it in return. But now I want justice for TT, and justice for TT means as a black person, I can show up whenever I want. I don't have to be a responsible person. Thank you, white liberal America. Thank you. You have justice for TT. We'll see you next time.
Waiting for the countdown, coming off the breakdown, standing in line for freedom. Looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came in like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all these moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on a corner, never been alone. I'm breaking my back for freedom. Blessed, we are living, get back. We are receiving, all deceiving. We all wanna be free. We want freedom.